finding them to be undisciplined and unsanitary. During the afternoon, he had borrowed the thoroughbred from General Noguez for a ride through the countryside. He returned to his office and made a quick phone call to Major General Beadle Smith, one of his friends on Ike's staff, to ask what the move was about. Smith informed him that he might be taking over Second Corps. Patton was up for the task and eager to immerse himself in the action. In a matter of hours, old blood and guts would be transported from the sidelines to the front lines. Here was his chance to push U.S. infantry, artillery, and armored forces in North Africa onto the path of redemption. That night he wrote in his diary that he expected to encounter more trouble working with his British allies than he did in whipping Hitler's German army. Before turning in for a few hours of sleep, he scribbled one final line: "God favors the brave. Victory is to the audacious." Chapter 1. Purple Heart Tanker. The 10-ton tank destroyers churned slowly forward, engines whining, 4 sets of clanking armored tracks grinding the desert sand into clouds of smoky white powder. Technician 5th grade Tom Morrison stood in the open-topped rear compartment, one hand clutching the armored shield that surrounded his half-track's main gun. His body stiff from hours of being jostled about, he wiped the dust from his eyeglasses and peered ahead. His armored force was pushing deeper into central Tunisia, a world little changed in thousands of years. Though embroiled now in the Second World War, over the millennia, the land had been ruled at various periods by Romans, Vandals, and the Byzantines, before being conquered by the Arabs in the 7th century. In 1881, Tunisia had been invaded by France, and had since endured 6 decades of French control that left little room for nationalist progression. The remote North African village before Morrison was little more than sand, rocks, and ruins. The West Latia Valley, nestled in an eroded plateau between the rugged eastern and western dorsal extensions of the Atlas Mountains, still sported crumbling remains of structures that dated to Roman times. Farms were scarce in this region, leaving local Arabs to feed their animals on cultivated cactus patches, bunchgrass, and scrub growth that dared to survive in the pebbly foothills. Spatterings of green palm and olive groves added color to the desert hills near the village of West Latia, sustained by irrigation from wells hacked through the rocky desert terrain over the centuries. Inside the 15-foot-high ancient rock wall that surrounded West Latia were hundreds of freedom fighters dressed in white kepi hats, with blue sashes over white linen trousers and colorful epaulettes topping their blue greatcoats. The desert settlement was being used as a forward operating post for members of the French Foreign Legion, infantrymen from a multitude of countries and cultures whose service had been accepted. To Morrison, they were just fugitives. Many had joined the Foreign Legion to escape punishment for infractions committed in their homelands. While most spoke heavy dialects and incomprehensible languages, one legionnaire had admitted to Morrison in English that he originally hailed from Chicago, where he was sought by both the police and Illinois crime gangs. He had also delivered a sobering warning. As many as 47 German panzer tanks were lying in concealment in the desert just miles ahead. To the German and Italian soldiers concentrated throughout the region, Tunisia was worth fighting for. Morrison, possessing little knowledge of the military big picture, could scarcely imagine why American lives were worth losing over these arid hills punctuating the Sahara Desert. But the brain trust of the Axis forces understood that air bases here could put Allied bombers within reach of Italy and portions of Germany. It could also double as a staging area for future Allied offensives into Sicily, the Italian peninsula, and southern France. Adolf Hitler, the Nazi dictator of Germany, had declared North Africa to be the enemy's approach to Europe, a land that must be held at all costs. Although Morrison's unit had already seen action in North Africa, he was not apprehensive this day. Over the past several weeks, his tank destroyer unit had been rushed to different areas in Tunisia to counteract enemy tank activity, only to find nothing there. Today was January 19, 1943, and Morrison was celebrating his 25th birthday, thousands of miles from his home in Ohio. The mechanized fighting vehicle in which he served had come a long way since Little